Video games today are filled with needless minigames, overcomplicated systems, and giant skill trees that you won't even touch 50% of. It made me wish for games to go back to a simpler time, where the main aim was for games to be fun and wouldn't cost me 80 hours of my life. Evil West, developed by Flying Wild Hog Studios, harkens back to a simpler era of game design, linear levels, explosive actions, upgradable skills, and of course, a lot of fun, while delivering sleek visuals and modern polish in an industry filled with open-world checklists and games as a service model. It combines spaghetti westerns, horror games, monster movies, and 2000-era action video games in one package. But is Evil West worth your time? Well, to find that out, please continue watching the video. And if you want more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment down below. Let's get into the game.
Oh, you didn't see that coming.
So let's talk about story. Evil West's story is not really something I would say is going to win any awards, but it is a really fun, crazy tale that is just overall a really good time. It takes place in an alternate version of 19th century America, where cowboys aren't the only things roaming the Wild West, but also bloodthirsty vampires. You play as Jesse Rentier, a gruff, no-nonsense agent of the Rentier Institute, an organization that's dedicated to evading supernatural threats that are plaguing the American frontier, like vampires. But things go quickly wrong when the Rentier Institute is attacked by a powerful vampire called Felicity DeBarno, revealing a new breed of vampires. Jesse now has to chase Felicity across the American frontier to uncover her plans and put an end to a new breed of vampires looking to plunge the world into darkness. Look, the story isn't anything crazy or remarkable, but the game isn't interested in telling you subtlety or layered emotional storytelling. It channels the spirit of spaghetti western, monster movies, and the energy of 2000s era action games. It is exactly what it is. It knows what it is, and it's fantastic for it. Look, it's not going to win any awards. It does its job well. The story is told over 16 missions, with each level introducing new locations, enemies, and revelations. There is no bloat here. It keeps the structure tight and focused. The pace of the story goes at a very brisk pace, and it sacrifices some character depth, but it keeps you engaged going throughout. I really like a lot of the characters here. You know, you got Jesse, who is your normal man of not many words, and your stereotypical stoic action hero. Edgar Gravener is Jesse's mentor and former Rentier agent turned rogue. You have Emilia Blackwell, a sharp-minded doctor and engineer. Virgil Oni, a timid but brilliant scientist, who all kind of round out this cast to kind of give some flavor to the story. It leans hard into its archetypes and what it is, and it really does work. I like a lot of this game, and the story just becomes more ridiculous and more crazy as it goes on. It's a story about vampires in the Wild West and science meeting itself with electricity. It's really, really fun. I kind of think of it if you played something like maybe Bioshock Infinite, where they kind of played around with a different type of America, and they were playing into like how you could make use of technology in that way. And the same thing is applied here, just a much more supernatural element into it. There's not a lot of lore, though there is some deeper lore in the game that you can find in the levels and the enemy descriptions. But the story is a compelling backdrop. It even has some surprises and twists if you are interested in it that I never saw coming. Look, is it amazing and it's amazingly told? No, but it does its job really, really well. And I had a fun time with it, especially if you can just turn your brain off and enjoy it. On the graphic side, Evil West is a gorgeous game. Look, this game strikes a weird balance between realism and a stylized embellishment of the Wild West. I mean, the characters themselves are these big, bulky characters that don't look like they fit in the Wild West. In fact, you feel like a superhero in the Wild West, and I really, really like that. The levels do look good, though I will say there's some issues with pop-in and some areas that look the same like others, but there are some visually striking scenes in this game, from lightning set pieces to like dark areas that look really, really good. I will admit that the color grading isn't the best here. For some reason, sometimes the areas look way too bright and other areas look way too dark. I could never figure out why that was. I always tried fixing it, but I never could. So that sometimes does play into it. And sometimes here and there, the frame rate will maybe drop a little bit here or there. But I didn't really care so much because the graphics do their job really well. For audio, I think the music is alright and serviceable, but voice acting was surprisingly really, really good. And a lot of voices in this game that I really liked. And I was surprised just how much voice acting there is, because all of the lore notes that you found are voiced. Like, they're completely voiced, which I have to say, I actually was surprised by, and I really, really enjoyed that thing. Overall, I like this package. The story is fun, idiotic, and dumb, but it does its job really well. The graphics are okay, nothing like AAA standard, but it does its job really well. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
So this is where those beasts get their magical blood from. Once that ancient fella in Baxter was sucked dry, she found you, huh? Christ, I'm starting to hate mythology.
Okay, so while the story isn't that great, I will say Evil Heart's soul is in its gameplay, and it's actually a pretty interesting style. It blends melee combat with third-person shooting in this weird mix that kind of works. Your primary weapon is your gauntlet. Basically, it's your most powerful weapon, and you're going to use it to punch enemies like 70 to 80% of the time. Stun enemies, you can send enemies in the air, juggle them, or hurl them like a cannonball into other enemies or environmental hazards. The combat here and the melee combat is fun, though it does get a bit repetitive since you always have like a normal startup. But as you continue and the game goes on, you actually get some really cool abilities and some really cool melee combat. This is also offset with your range combat. With this combat revolves around your firearms, such as your revolvers, rifles, and shotguns. You're gonna use these in tandem and consistently switch between melee and range just to keep the flow in combat. The game prioritizes you always to be on the attack. You gotta be on the offensive. Being defensive does kind of suck, but there are defensive options. If you block at the right time, you can stun enemies. When an enemy glows at a certain point, you can interrupt their attack and then continue fighting. Lightning is a big part in this game, and using them to stun enemies is important. The lightning tether can drag enemies towards you, or you can dash towards enemies, stunning them. Damming enemies enough can also lead them into a stagger state where you can pull off an execution kill, which is really important because you'll need it for health. And ultimately, you also have an ultimate attack that can do a lot of damage. I like this combat. It's really fun. And the arsenal of weapons is very varied. You can also decide how you play and get a different feel for the combos. You can hit people in the air and then juggle them with your fists, or juggle them with the revolver. If enemies get very close, you'll be using your shotgun. Your rifle does really good damage from a far away distance. Enemies sometimes have this big yellow like circle around them, and if you time it right and shoot them with your rifle, then you kind of like interrupt their attack and do a lot of damage. The game can get crazy and be really relentless. You have to be thinking very quickly, and that's mostly due to the amount of enemies this game has. This game has a really good amount of enemy variety. I was surprised at just exactly how much enemies there are in this game and how every enemy has their own strengths and weaknesses, and they can be a real hassle to fight, especially when you get a terrible combination when you have to fight them. Enemies will stay from a distance and they'll throw things at you. Some enemies are flying, other enemies will come charging right at you. Some will stay back, wait for a perfect time to attack you. Others will be really fast. Some will come with shields. You have normal husks, active wielding vampires, shield bearers, crazy werewolves, all of them in this relentless mad dash that the combat has. While the challenge isn't in exactly how tough they are, it's more in the quantity and the combination that you'll fight, requiring quick thinking and knowledge of your full toolkit. You'll be going around like a mad person in this dash of just dodging and running and trying to make sure this enemy comes and hits you. This enemy is down there. If he's staggered, do I kill him? How far can I dash? Do I bring him towards me? Then you add on mini bosses who become regular enemies, and that just adds even more craziness. Though I do think this is where the weakness of the combat does show. First, the combat tries to be this really fast switch between this ranged attack and shoot him and then jump there, then go there, but it really isn't that. The combat feels very heavy, tanky, and slow. So sometimes it doesn't really manage to do that really fast combat, and you'll really just rely back on just punching the guy. Another weakness is the camera. Because there's so many enemies and the fighting areas can sometimes be small, where the camera can be a big issue, it just sometimes you can't see what's behind you. You just can't see who's behind you. Even though they do put arrows behind you, you're gonna get hit like in 80% of the time. Like, you have to keep moving. Trying to stand still in this game can sometimes cause a death. But the problem is that Jesse doesn't move as fast, so you feel like you're always just a little bit too slow. I think that they sped up the combat a bit more. It would have been like this really fast switching combat that I probably would have enjoyed a lot more. But I do still enjoy the combat. I do think it's fun. Now, you get in these old school cameras, like combat zones where you can't really leave. Some of these combat zones can be very small, and then you get like 2 or 3 big enemies, then another enemy in the distance, and it can lead to you dying a lot, not because you don't have the abilities. It's just that there's way too many enemies to deal with at once, and I think that becomes an issue. Even the big areas can become a problem. because the enemies are so relentless and they keep attacking you and will keep going for you, you kind of just find yourself in one corner trying to stop anybody from trying to sneak up on you. So overall, I do like this combat, but it can get a bit repetitive around the end and feel like the game just wasn't balanced correctly. But it also felt very old school to play. The upgrade system is robust but not overwhelming. There's basically two. The first is perks. Now you can earn perk points by just playing the game, and you can use these to unlock new abilities and even new moves. Also get more health or get more energy that you can use. And I kind of like this upgrade tree. It's really fun. You can even customize the playstyle. You can go sort of like a hulking brute that does a lot of heavy damage, but will have like really no energy, or you can go for like an energy build like I did, so I can make use of the cool special abilities that I get. And there's some really fun special abilities and fun moves that you can unlock that if you pair them with something else, can make it a really powerful like build that you can make. Weapon upgrades are also can be unlocked by money, and these change how your weapons will act, from ricochet bullets or longer range. Some of these upgrades are really powerful and super fun and change how your gun is. It also likes that you can kind of have like two of the same upgrades put together, like all the upgrades together, which I also liked. I also liked that you didn't have to follow the upgrade tree when it came to weapon upgrades. They kind of show you like a tree of like 3 of these upgrades, and you don't have to pick the first one to unlock the second one. As long as you have the money and the level, you can buy the second one without buying the first one, which I thought was really, really awesome. This also something else I like in the game is that you can respec your perk points whenever you want. This respecs not on your perk points and your weapon upgrades, and I'm not somebody that kind of respecs a lot, but in this game, I respect quite a bit, and I really enjoyed myself respecing this game, because you could do it for free, and sometimes you will like you upgrade ability and you're like, oh, I really did not like that, and then you can go back and just change it again, which I did quite a lot of in this game. So I did like a lot of this combat, and I think the level up is great. It does a really good job of making you feel tense and crazy. There's another criticism I do have is that this game doesn't really have bosses. I said before, like the mini bosses become your normal enemies in the game, and that's really it. I would say there's like 4 bosses in this game. I would like 4 overall, and the first one isn't even that fun. You fight like this big plant guy, and he's probably one of the worst bosses in the game, but the other bosses are interesting and tough to fight. But there's just really not any bosses in here. There's most of the mini bosses who become actual enemies in the game. I think the bosses are good, but they kind of do show the weakness of the combat, because now you don't have other enemies to fall upon. You kind of feel like the game is like very, very linear at this point. And for a game that's very linear already, it does feel like the combat just needs a little bit more to break out from some of the repetition it gets around the end. Level design and exploration is fine. The game is very linear. Some levels are large and some are open, but semi-open, but this mostly just, they tell you where to go. Like they always show you where you need to go. But there is some exploration. You can find hidden chests, lore entries, money, and sometimes even perks. There's some platforming and light environmental puzzles to break up the action. But again, they aren't great. Platforming is mostly just climbing up a rope or climbing down a rope. And then the light environmental puzzles are like, oh, move this there, move that there. They do break up the action, but they're pretty boring. I liked a lot of this gameplay. It was fun, and while I did have some issues, I won't say that it is awfully terrible. It also doesn't feel unfair sometimes, but it really did feel like an early 2000s era action game that I played. I was like, oh, this feels very fun, very annoying at times, but the amount of variety you have in here is pretty crazy. Like the variety of weapons that you get, and it's pretty big. The enemy variety is pretty big as well. Another thing I will say is that just like the story's pacing, which is really fast, this game's pacing is also fast with its like weapons that you get. By like the second mission, you get like almost all of your weapons that you need. You get your revolver, your shotgun, probably your ultimate attack, your energy attacks, your weapon tether. By like the second mission, which I thought was really, really fun and a very smart idea, because the game just adds in stuff there, but very, very slowly. Now, as for replayability, there is a new game plus mode, but I didn't really go into that much, and there is a co-op mode, but I didn't make use of it. Overall, I had a fun time with this gameplay. I did enjoy it, though I will say that if you don't like the style of these early 2000s era action games, you'll probably get annoyed by how sometimes it just doesn't feel balanced, but I did enjoy it.
Running real low, Jess. Kinda busy here, Edgar.
How about that?
Just a little longer. Sun's almost up. Jesus, how many did she send after us? Right there! Shoot him up! Out of lightning? Good thing we still got a big shiny ace up our sleeve.
So, is Evil West worth your time? Hell yeah, a love letter to old school action games that ditches the open world bloat, life service mechanics, and microtransactions in favor of this linear progression, tight combat, and this really big fun power fantasy you have when you play the game. While this game doesn't revolutionize any particular genre, it does blend a lot of the elements from third-person brawlers, shooters, and horror games in this fun, entertaining packages. Sure, there are issues. The story is not going to win any awards for narrative depth or emotional resonance, and the level design can be repetitive, and as well, the gameplay can be repetitive, especially around the end. But its main primary mission was to be fun, and I loved Evil West because it is fun. It knows exactly what it is and leads into that identity with confidence. It's a game that invites you to shut off your brain, rev up your lightning gauntlet, and enjoy the ride. There is one big caveat that I will put up with this game. It's way too expensive. Look, this game is almost the price, especially in my country, as a AAA game, which I cannot recommend buying this game. If you can pick it up for a very good price on a sale, then I would say definitely go and buy it. But if you can find it on a subscription service somewhere, then I would say pick it up and play it for a good Friday afternoon. So that's the only thing holding this game back from really being one that I can really recommend to buy. So I can't say you can buy it, but I will say the game is definitely worth a playthrough. Overall, if you like this video, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more games that may be worth your time, and of course comment down below what you thought of Evil West. What did you like? What did you hate? What did I miss that you might have wanted me to talk about? Please just comment down below and tell me down what you might be thinking of it. I'll see you guys in the next game.
Is wrapped in the sun.